What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning. Hi! You know what this is? It's Plunder! Oh, the little shippy boys. They're here. They're here to spread cheer. And they're here to take all of my money for runic tip. Please help. I'm financially in crisis. So you may ask, how do we play? What's runic plunder? What does it do? How do we play it? What are the cards? Where's your money? Give me your wallet. And some of those questions will be answered right now. And most of it revolves around the runic side of the deck. But let's talk about the plunder part, because that's way more fun and interesting. Whitebeard is a recursion when you send it from hand or field to the grave. So you can respond with a revival of a card from deck. Golden Hair lets you discard a card and bring it back from grave, or you can send a plunder from hand to summon it from your hand. Black Eye lets you return a plunder from graveyard to hand, or to summon it. Bluebeard lets you summon itself for free if you have a plunder already on the field, and it also lets you discard one to draw one if you get it from hand or field to grave. Redbeard also lets it re-equip itself if it's sent from hand or field to grave, while also being just a regular, or pretty much do the Blackbeard effect of summoning a monster with the same attribute as something your opponent controls and equipping itself to it. Whitebeard also does the same thing, and so does Blackbeard. Blackbeard lets you draw one on top of it, though. On top of that, we have the Booty, which lets you change the attribute of something on the field. And Shipyard is a shipyard that lets you recur stuff from your grave, lets you reactivate it by returning a card from your spell and trap, a plunder from your spell and trap zone to the hand. It's a really good card to get if you need it. However, it is not necessarily the field spell that will constantly be out for Runic because of... Runic is definitely an interesting archetype. It affects so many different decks for it just existing and being a great draw engine just by itself. However, I will not sit here and lie to you and say Plunder in Runic is the best option. Naturia probably isn't either anymore, actually. So it's weird what's going to fill in the role, but I'm going to put my money on Plunder being the soon-to-be best version of the deck, seeing as Naturia tree is already getting limited. However, there are ways for that to still be resolved correctly. It's whatever. For those of you who don't know what Runic does, it's basically a spell card deck that tries to deck out your opponent by activating spell cards and letting you redraw those same spell cards by using Fountain's Effect to just return up to 3 of your spell quick plays in the grave to the deck on the bottom of it, and then drawing 3 on top. Really great card, really great engine. Runic tip is the one that lets you add a random runic card from your deck to your hand. If physically any runic card is amazing for this deck. If this card was limited, it would definitely hurt the deck so much more than the semi-limby of Fountain. What the fuck? Flashing Fire is your special summon destruction. Freezing Curses is your negation. Destruction is spell and trap hate. Slumber lets you protect your monsters once. Dispelling lets you discard a random card from your opponent's hand. Storm lets you banish cards equal to the amount of cards your opponent has on their field. Drop It lets your opponent draw 1 and then banish 4 from the top of their deck. But all these also have the same sub-effect where you can special summon a runic monster from your extra deck for free. They also have the stipulation where you skip your next battle phase the turn when you activate these cards. On top of that, we have the hand trap lineup and subsequent Rivalry of Warlords, because being able to lock your opponent into strictly fiends with a card we'll get to in a little bit is very funny. Ghost Ogre is really good for just certain card matchups needing you to get rid of a monster in particular. Ash Blossom is a really good card now that Droll is going to be kicked out of the format pretty much, with both Purrely and Super Heavy Samurai just being gone. Ash will probably take back over in place of being the Droll situation where Ash is now full one back in deck. In Perm, obviously we need Monster Negation along with Valor also being a Monster Negation in the same way. Our side, Lancia, really great card, lets you stop your opponent from banishing cards if we're against Kashtira. Bestial lineup is a really great card against Mathmech, because Mathmech is, or was, a genuine threat. Magnamut still being, probably going to be inside still with it just being around. Nibiru you should play at minimum 2. I like having it at 2 for certain reasons, mostly for the space insides, and I can easily switch it out for certain cards in the deck. Evenly matched against certain, like, spell trap focus decks, and Radion against specifically Dragoon and Psychic Punisher. But if I get Santa Claus, I would also put him here because he gets us into the negation. Because, like I said before, Plunder really likes your opponent having certain attributes. And Radion is great because it's a dark, and as a dark, we go into Moark. Moark, if it is equipped with a Plunder monster, is a quick effect to banish one card your opponent controls by discarding one Plunder in hand, which is really great. Blackbeard, of course, I've already said, is basically just target one effect monster you control, make that card be an equip for a summoned monster from the extra deck with a same attribute as something your opponent controls. Moark being a banish, really great card. Yord is the focus point of the entire deck now, being what starts up your engine, getting you into everything that you actually need for the field. And usually if you're going first, this is what the first monster you should summon be as fast as possible. Yord has multiple effects, where the generic one, where it's summoned originally, is you can return one plunder from your graveyard to your hand, and then put this card as a pendulum scale. But if it's a pendulum scale, you can declare one attribute, return it to the extra deck from the pendulum zone, and then if you do, summon a plunder patrol to both fields with the same attribute with attack and defense of 0, but it being level 4. Really great plunder card because it sets up your entire deck. Also giving you material. Depending on how you get to it, you can get into Blackbeard, immediately choosing whatever monster you want to and easily summoning it for free. Along with that, we also have Brawn, which is your more spell and trap hate for the plunder side of the deck, where you can just discard a plunder and then target one spell trap your opponent controls and banish it. Then you can add a plunder patrol monster from your deck, and there you go. List is a lot more interesting though, as it is both the negate and is once again doing the plunder thing. But if you also want to, you can also choose to special summon a plunder from hand or spell and trap zone to the field because of with it. After that, we have the generic runic cards. Hugin, obviously, to add fountain as much as possible. I would recommend possibly putting in terraforming at some point in this deck somehow. Possibly switching out probably an ogre and just having 3 ashes. Or possibly throwing out one of the runic cards of these 3. Possibly droplet, just to have another way into fountain if needed. Munin, really great card, gets you into a bunch of things also, but also is a great negation if anything affects your runic card specifically. And then Jerry is also a great runic card, letting you return your fountains from grave in case they get destroyed, and also being a destruction if it's destroyed by battle. But that's what the deck does. I love this deck. It's so interesting, and the matches I'm about to show you will definitely show how much I actually enjoy playing this deck, now that I understand the focus of it and how it actually runs around. Because most of the time, your plans and like setups for this deck aren't actually trying for you to kill with plunder. It's more just a control deck that you just need to understand how to work with. So we'll get into games real quick and I'll show you what I mean. The first match I have here is actually up against Nuelis. I said that completely wrong. Basically, it's the Hungry Burger archetype. And judging from our hand, you think, well, what do you do with this? Well, we're going into Hugin. Hugin pitching Bluebeard, adding Fountain, Bluebeard effect, discarding 1 to draw, activating Fountain, summoning Golden Hair, going into Coral, summoning another Hugin, Fountain activating its effect, so draw 3 more, Golden Hair bringing itself back, going into Yord, Yord effect bringing back Bluebeard, summoning a token to both fields, going into Blackbeard, summoning Bluebeard, going into Liss bringing back Blackbeard, and passing. We then add Tip, giving us a Flashing Fire just in case. Blackbeard summoning a second Liss, equipping Liss to it, and they will attempt to Golden Chalice, will destroy. They'll add another Duavis. They'll activate this, adding more rituals. The Makonko will negate. They'll choose to summon it instead, but will still negate it. Redbeard summoning itself back. Go into that, go into Moark. Banishing their Makonko, because I hate Makonko so much, it's really annoying. We'll Ghost Ogre their first ritual. We'll banish top cards of their deck. Fountain bringing back, returning those, drawing 3 more. Summoning Destruction, their field spell. They will still summon another fucking monster. Ending on a ritual with a card in hand. They will destroy our Bluebeard, we'll discard the draw, and finally they'll end their turn. Very unfortunate. Moark, something negated, but we can activate 2 runics on field, and our opponent will just surrender after that. Now this hand is definitely worse. We'll definitely say that. Opening just the minimum amount of runic cards, you definitely want at least 2 runic cards plus either Whitebeard or Golden Hair in your hand. But you can definitely still do stuff with the cards that are in ours, exclusively being Tip, going into Hugin, Hugin pitching Ogre, grabbing Fountain, going into main, immediately activating Fountain, Whitebeard going into Coral, grabbing Black Eyes, going into Blackbeard, Coral will draw, and we got everything we needed. Tip will allow us to add Spell and Trap Hate, the old Hugin, will Fountain for 2, will Blackbeard for Liss, draw 3, look at all those cards we got. Activate their own fountain while activating Flashing Fire, summoning back Blackbeard. Smiting Curses, negating their monster, banishing cards. Fill Fountain. Turning draw. We'll Ghost Ogre this fucking fountain. Destruction, destroying one of their face downs. Going into our turn. Blackbeard, summoning out Liss. Tip to grab Dispelling. Fountain, returning 3. Liss summoning Whitebeard, summoning Droll, going into Blackbeard, bringing it back Golden Hair. Droplet, Dispelling, passing. Blackbeard summoning Brawn. Negating their final little Fossil Boy. Going into our turn again, once again, ending our turn. He'll switch to defense, putting it face down, we'll Imperm, activating Blackbeard, Slumber, bringing out Yord, Fountain, Flashing Fire, bringing out Jerry, Battle Phase, M Phase, Main Phase 1, and this is where I just surrender. Our final match is against Shaddolls, actually. And this is actually way more interesting for me, because Shaddolls is actually a really weird deck to fight in any situation. We'll Droplet, going into Hugin, Fountain immediately, going into Whitebeard, going into Coral, activating card, bring back Hugin, getting Redbeard, Fountain effect, turning 2, drawing 1, Black Eyes, bring back Whitebeard, when Black Eyes, activate Yord, Coral Dragon lets us draw, Yord, Blackbeard, 2 tokens, Blackbeard effect, Liss, draw 1, pass. We'll prep, we'll tip, we'll grab Relinquish, which is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. There's just so much happening, but they try to Millenniumize, they try to Shaddol. We negated both. We summon out Blackbeard, we summon out Moark. Moark banishes the Shaddol. We got Whitebeard, we bring back Golden Hair, and they surrender. Oh, so much, yet it's so cool seeing it happen. I love just seeing Runic and Plunder just spin. It's really interesting seeing the cycles happen. Overall, what does this really show about my opinion for the deck? Honestly, it shows that I adore this. It's a really fun deck that's really control-faced. Obviously, Runic, people can say like, oh, it's boring. It introduces a really boring win condition. But there's an easy way to counter Runic, and it's getting rid of Fountain. Especially since now we're being limited to 2 fountains. As long as we don't have an easy way into the fountains with even a negation on board. Runic is very much a struggling deck. Plunder, on the other hand, really is open to just spinning its wheels with the opponent doing stuff on its own, and depending on what your opponent does, you can do as well. Yord really helped out the deck a lot, showing off just what this deck can really do if put in the right situations. Your only real struggle in this format alone is Flunderies. If you fight a Flu player, hope to God you can get a fucking Kaiju on their board, because you're going to be struggling a lot. Anyway, it's time for me to go back on to 7 Seas. Yar Harfield AD, you later, gamer.